So I'm going to put simple gifts aside for now, and I want to go to some songs in the book. How are we doing on time? Pretty well, I guess. So let's take a look at page 153. Maybe I'll get a G flute for a bit. So this piece starts out with long slur lines. So the first two measures, there's only one articulation, that first note, and then we are moving fingers for the whole rest of the first two measures. And that continues that way through almost the second line until the last measure of the second line. And suddenly we have eighth note pairs that are slurred together, right? And then when we get into the third and fourth lines, we have more articulations and some ties. So ties and slurs. It's like a game, ties and slurs. And then in the bottom two lines, quite a bit more articulation. Now, how do we treat these little phraselets, these little slur lines, and in terms of our air? Well, first off, the marking of the instruction for how to play this piece, it says lively. And lively, in this case, doesn't necessarily mean a tempo. I specifically didn't put tempos in this piece, in this book, because I don't want people to think, oh, it has to be played at that speed, because that's not the case. It can be played at whatever speed you want, as long as you kind of give the impression. And lively in this case means it's not really calm and meditative, and so you can have a little bit more fun with these phrases. All right, so let me play this whole piece. And I'm in G, by the way, I think. Oh, my block is moving. Oops. Probably help if I turn my light on. So you can see now, because the piece is telling me a little bit about it, it's lively, I'm not necessarily playing it completely legato. So, for example, if I go down to the second to the last line, measure 17, if I played that without breaking the air, except for taking breaths, I would get this. It loses a little bit of its life, right? But I'm not doing this. Right? That's a little too much, right? So you have to kind of use your sense of taste with this. And the song kind of tells you what's going on. If I play this at a faster tempo, maybe I could get away with that a little bit more. But for this, that's kind of I think the best way to handle that. All right, let's look at another piece. Let's go to page 158. So again, we have slurs. We have some ties, but that's not as big a deal here. And you'll notice that the direction here is calm. So again, that tells me something, or I, as the composer, am trying to say something about this piece to somebody else that might play it. And this speaks to how we're going to treat some of these articulations. Now, first off, you'll see that there's a slur line for the first two notes, and then the next two notes, and then a slur line over the next two measures. And we don't want to necessarily assume that just because a slur line stops, that musical idea is stopping. It might be a gesture but that gesture is part of a larger musical idea. So in this case, the larger musical idea is the first four measures. Right? The first two measures are sort of like statements or questions, and then the last two measures of that little four-measure phrase are the responses, the answers, if you will, whatever terminology you want to use. So don't necessarily think that a slur line equals a musical idea. It's a gesture within what could be a larger musical idea. Okay? So let me play the first three lines to this. And again, I'm in G. So that's the first tune. Okay. Why don't we all play this together? I'll play it in G again, and then maybe I'll switch to A. So, why don't we just play the first 8 measures? So we could do this together. So if you have a G flute, now it's in 2/2, but I will count in 4. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but the first 2 measures and then the 5th and 6th measure, I'm not breathing. And I'm using that non-breathing to kind of hold the line in the listener's mind, and in mine too. And then I'm breathing for the back half. Sometimes this will help you hear how the line is going. And now in 17, we get to the second part of the second tune in this longer song. And you'll see, once again, we have these 8-note pairs. But because it's calm, I want this to be more flowing, more legato. So let me play this again. This is, I'm connecting and not dropping the air to produce this fluid flowing line, as opposed to. Now, sometimes that might be appropriate, but in this song, I think it's really not. Okay. Why don't we play this again? I'll do it in G again. And once again, I'll count in 4, and I'll do it a little slower. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You notice there the slur lines got extended. Okay. When I finish out this page, and then I'll flip to A. And if you want to play along with me, you can. You don't have to, but I'm going to play just the last 2 measures so you can hear them. So 3, 4. I'm sorry. me switch over to A. Now here's an example where what started as just those short slur lines over the quarter note to the dotted half note, they're now being joined together to make longer musical gestures. Okay. Okay. If you have an A flute, why don't you play along with me? I'll count in again in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I'm going to go on here. I think you get an idea for this song, and the rest kind of stays the same way. But again, this is one way of treating them. Okay, so let's move on to, what's my next one? Mr. Honeyfoot's Jig. This is on page 186. So this is in the collection of quasi-Celtic songs. And we can see a couple things about this piece right off the beginning. It says lively, so that tells you something about how the spaces might be, between the slur lines might be handled. And by the way, I'm not talking about the breaths. Breaths are breaths. You know, you have to drop your air and take a breath. So it says lively. It's also in 6/8. And 6/8 is 2 big beats per measure, right? And you can clearly see this in the first measure. The first 3 eighth notes are beamed together. That makes the first half of the measure, the first big beat, and then the next half of the measure, the next 3 eighth notes. So if you're not familiar with 6/8, you might count this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but already you can hear I'm kind of putting a little bit more on 1 and 4. Most musicians count this in 2. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, or 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. And those are the big beats. And in this song, the articulations seem to happen almost completely. There's one exception on the big beats, right? And this just sort of helps push the meter along in this tune. You don't have to necessarily do it this way, but okay, somebody asked, this is line 5. Where are we on now? And I didn't see that, so I apologize. That's probably way in the past. All right, so I'm still in A. How much does this want to play? I will play the first 8 bars. Right? And it just gives it a little push. And even though it's lively, you're hearing I'm not going. I'm still keeping the air going because you can hear the way that 6/8 is sort of moving. You kind of want that. Now, if let's say I took all those out. It's the same, but it loses a little something in the spirit of it, right? Let me go on till I find a place that I think should stop. So I'm going to start measure 9, which is the second line, last 2 measures. Got a little excited in that last note. All right, let's play this together. I'm going to go slow. We'll start in A, and then I'll switch over to G for the people that have G flutes. So I'm going to take this really slow. Let's just do the first 1, 2, 3, 4 measures, and then we'll do the next 4. Okay? So here we go. So I'm going to count in 6 so that you really get a clear idea of what I'm doing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then let's go on from there. Next 4 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's do the same music again in G. So we're going to start at the beginning, and maybe this time we'll do all 8 measures. All right. And I'm going to count in a little differently, but you'll still get the feel. So I'm going to count in 2s with the subdivision. So 1 and 2 and. Now, they may not seem easy right away, or maybe it does, and that's great, but you'll get this over time. Now, I should say, because it just popped in my head right now, I've had students say to me, oh, I'm just going to get the notes and the fingerings, and I'll do the articulation later. And I cannot stress how inaccurate that is to do. What is the finger? The fingers, they're muscles, right? And what is your tongue? It is a muscle. So when you're learning the fingerings for this, you're learning the muscle memory. Well, if you don't do the tongue, you're not learning the tongue muscle memory that you need to play the piece with the articulation that's notated in it. And so if you go back and do that later, suddenly you've learned the piece and you have this memory of it, this automaticity without the tongue, without the articulations, and now you're trying to force it on when your brain is saying, no, I know it this way. And you're going to have to unlearn what you've done already. So it's actually better when you're going through and learning the fingerings and it's nice and slow and you're trying to, okay, what am I doing? Put the tongue in as well too. You don't have to be playing really fast to do the tongue parts, right? So if it's just something like, let's say I go to 3rd line from the bottom and I'm going to start on the 2nd measure, which starts on the root note. Yeah. That's the one place in the piece where the articulation doesn't happen on the big beat. And if that's throwing you, it's better to learn it at the beginning than let it slide. Okay. All right, let's look at another piece. So on page 194, where I want to go next, and while you're looking at it, I'll talk about this a little bit. This is from the chant, and I'm putting it in quotes because it's not really, it's sort of my imitating it. And yes, I listen to a lot of chant and medieval and Renaissance polyphony. This has examples of slur lines, and you'll see this all through the book, but I thought I would pick this one specifically, where there's lots of repeated notes that have slurs over them. Now, depending upon the style of music and the editor that you're looking at, you may or may not see something like this. But again, I'm just trying to give the effect to the person playing this that I want them to really hold their air, right? I don't necessarily have to do this. I could have just put the first 2 notes as a slur, or to the first 6 flat, I'm sorry, and then drop the slur until I started moving through notes again. But I decided to do this because it gave me the effect that I wanted. And you have to tongue repeated notes. There's just no way around it. If you don't hear them, right? Let me just play just a little of this, right? So again, we're repeating a lot of notes, and it's like singing da 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 da, right? We don't want to go right, because that ruins the effect of something that's supposedly like a Gregorian chant or a 10th century chant. Or Hildegard von Bingen or whatever, right? And so this is why you will see this in the book. There will be notes that repeat and have a slur line over them as well. It's just my way of saying, don't let the air drop. Really do not want them. And sometimes in some pieces, I won't do that because it's like, well, you could hear. Okay, so that's just an example of that. Let's go on to another piece. This is on page 204. And this is the first of the collection of what I call Songs of the West. And they're just Native American flute songs written in sort of a quasi-Western style. Think of, Rawhide or Support Your Local Sheriff with James Garner. All right, so you'll see that first note is all by itself. It gets an articulation, and then the next note gets an articulation, and then the last note in that measure, it's not attached to a slur line. It gets an articulation. All right, so let me just play the first two measures. I'm in A. I'm sorry, I got to think about what this tune is. Right, and it's lively, so I'm putting little spaces of air. Okay. For those of you playing a G flute, let me play the same thing in G. Hopefully I won't make the mistakes this time. Okay. So you can see, because it's lively and I'm sort of imitating this style, I'm allowing the air to stop every once in a while, just a little bit. Let's go down to the fourth line, measure 13. We have this rhythm, dum da 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 da, dum da 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 da. And in this Western style, right? I'm not doing it completely legato, because it loses something, right? So the style tells us something about it, right? You have to kind of be aware of the style. And then something else here that I want to point out here in this piece specifically. If we drop down to the bottom three lines of this song, the top of those three lines starts with measure 22. I'm going to go all the way to the last measure of that piece, of that line, I'm sorry. And then play that and measure 26. And measure 26 does not include any slur lines at all. But that doesn't mean that it needs to be tooted. Okay? Right, I'm in the style, but I'm not going. So just because the slur lines go away, don't think, oh, I can toot. Okay? There's nothing there that says that. All right, let's go on to another piece. I want to go to page 221, which is actually the last song of the Western section. And I'm picking this because Simple Gifts. Well, we're going to go back to Simple Gifts, Rick. I put that aside for a second. Okay. So in the roundup, the reason why I want to show you this is because I have a specific tonguing gesture in mind, and so I've actually written it in the score, and I wanted to sort of talk about it a little bit. We have this rhythm, da 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 da, dum ba 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 da, and I want to make those two 16th notes a little clearer. So I'm changing the consonant, da da ka da, da da ka da, right? Instead of going da 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 da, da 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 da. You can hear the rhythm even better when I say it differently. Da da ka da, da da ka da, da da ka da, right? And the ka, by the way, is pushing the tongue slightly back against your alveolar ridge, right? So it's like if you're from Boston and you're saying the car, hey, the car, right? The car. And the ka kind of comes back, da, 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 right? So that's what you want to do. You want to go da, da, ka, and you want the ka to kind of brush back against your alveolar ridge. Instead of pushing forward, da, ka, da, ka, da, ka, da, ka, da, ka, and it changes the way the air is moving inside of your mouth. And again, we have lively. And again, because it's lively, I'm dropping the air a little bit, dun, 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 because it matches the style of the piece. Okay. Any questions about that? I know that's a new thing I'm sort of throwing out there. If you have a question you want to put up in the chat? No? Well, cool. This piece, by the way, if you learn this, there's lots of subtle things going on. Let's see here. For example, measure 9, I have da, 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 da. And, you know, those are very specific because I want that 8 to kind of pop out there. And that's a different, I changed the phrasing there. Da, ba, ba, da, da, da. So I want it to behave a little differently, okay? There's a couple spaces here where the tune kind of ends briefly. Let's see, the one is on the third line from the bottom, starts with measure 21. If you go to the very end of that, you have this, I'll do the last 2 measures. Ooh, this flute's getting bad. Let me get another flute. It's a slur. Okay. But on the end of the piece, I'll do the last 2 measures. We don't have a slur. So, and this is, it's easy to, you go, oh, well, that happened there, and your brain just goes, oh, this must be the same, but it's not really. Okay. Okay, we're getting to the end, so I got to really put the pedal to the metal. I want to talk about page 224, Roadrunner Rag. Roadrunner Rag. And again, this is sort of in the same style as the Western pieces. It's got some of these same sort of angular rhythms. And by the way, even though it says lively and it says Roadrunner in the title, if you live in an area of the world where you have roadrunners, you'll know that they're not the fast little birds that they are in the cartoon. They're actually kind of slow and kind of funky looking. They don't zip around. So this piece doesn't have to be played at lightning breakneck speed. Okay, so. Okay, so I've got 2 staccato marks there. All I'm just saying is I really want to make sure that those are detached, not that they're. I don't want that. Okay. And it leads me to something I want to talk about with the flute and staccato, when you see staccato in music. So a flute can play staccato very fast. Right? But if we make the comparison to a flute and the voice, you would never hear a singer unless it was a piece of modern music with a very special effect going on. Go, right? That really short. Well, that one's watering out too. Okay, you would not hear that. You would hear what I call a vocal staccato. The vowel gets heard. Da, 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 da. Right? So if you're going to play staccato and you see staccato in music, you don't want to go. You want the vowel to come out. Oh, my flutes are wetting out. A number 2. That to me is staccato. It's not. Okay, so just be aware of that. When you see staccato, you want to hold on to the vowel just a little bit. Like you're singing it, right? You don't want this, even though the flute can do that. Okay, so this is a good example of that. Now, in this piece, I'm going to talk about a different technique. Let's go to the third line. And in the third line, there's 2 measures, and I'm going to start with the pick up to the second measure, just this little run up. I'm doing what's called pairing there. I haven't written it in, but I'm just going to share this with you. So I'm just going da. I'm not in the right pitch. Da. And then I'm going da 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 da. So I'm saying daughter. Like I'm from Boston again. Dada. Right? Soft tongue on the der. Bringing the tongue back. Da-der. Da-der. Just like the daka-daka, the, Dakar. Da-der, da-der. And it allows the tongue to do 2 notes really quickly, but not have to go da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Right? It also changes the stress on the 2 notes. As opposed to, hear how the second one's a little softer. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. It's the only place of any of the songs in this book where I know that I do that for a fact. Okay. Other than that, that's all I need to say about that piece. So let's go back to simple gifts. If I can find my copy. There it is. And again, I apologize, I'm going over. For those of you that know me, kind of a me hazard. So what I want to talk about here is what do you do if you see a piece of music and it has no articulation in it at all? And I see this a lot. Flute Tree and Clint Goss's site, same thing. They'll put up music and there's nothing. It's just a bunch of notes, right? So how do we know what to do? Do we slur things? Do we articulate things? Where do we take breaths? Blah, 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 blah. Well, if we know what the lyrics are, we can use the lyrics to help us determine what to do. Because the articulation in music is similar to the articulation in speech, especially when you think about how if a song has lyrics, the articulation of the vocalist is what we want to try and mimic when we're playing the song, right? So in simple gifts, we have, 'tis the gift to be simple, comma. So that tells us something right there. There's something ending there. And then, 'tis the gift to be free. I think I put a comma there, but that actually probably is a period. Another stop. Now, are we going to breathe on that first comma? Maybe not, but we could definitely do it on the second one. But those are demarcation points in the music that tell us what we want to know about how we're going to play this, how we are going to articulate this. Now, also, since there are no slur lines here, do we tongue every single note? Well, if we were singing it, we would sing every single syllable. So we probably would. But you want to be careful. We don't want to go, right? We want to play it like we're singing it. Da 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 da. Breath. Da da da. Right? No tooting. Right? We don't want, especially in that second line. But the music's not telling you this, right? It doesn't. There's no slur lines. There's nothing to tell you what to do. So you have to think to yourself, okay, what is the text doing? What is the grammar of the text? Where are the commas? Where the period? And if it has lyrics to begin with, somebody's singing that. And unless they're going, 'tis the gift to be simple, you shouldn't play it that way either, right? You want to play it like you're singing the song into the flute, right? Now, if you chose to slur it, that would be fine. But you'd still want to pay attention to the commas and the periods, right? Because they're going to tell you a little something about the original phrasing of the original tune. And I know that a lot of people like to play songs that they know, popular songs or songs like this that are traditional. And again, just because there's no phrasing put into the music by the arranger, that doesn't mean that the phrasing should not be put there by you. And the best indication of what to do is to look at the lyrics themselves. You're singing the words, so you want to carry the vowels, right? You don't want to toot, and you want to take pauses, commas, where they are, and breaths and periods where they are too. It's the same. It's again, it's this spillover. You know, there's some belief that humans sang before we had language, you know, or that language came out of song. So this is the same thing. Singing words and holding vowels and, you know, how we articulate. They're married together, and they're pretty much inseparable in many ways. Okay, so if you have any questions, you may ask them audibly or through the chat. Any questions?
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
This is Marty.
Hey, Marty.
If there wasn't words in the song, would you play it staccato then?
No. I would go by what the tune spoke to. You know, first off, unless there are staccato marks in the piece, you shouldn't even consider staccato. Staccato is a very specific thing. And by the way, if you see staccissimo, which I think is double dotted, you know, then you can do that sort of affected, really short sound. But again, if the piece of music does not have staccato written in it, it's not meant to be played staccato. So then the phrasing that you'll do, the articulation, comes about by what you see as the musical line, the line itself. Yeah. And again, that's just like if you go back to the pieces in the book, you know, we looked at lots of notes that did not have slurs attached to them, but that didn't mean they're played staccato. So I've already scheduled the next webinar. I think it's the 17th and the 24th of next month. It's a two-parter, 2 days, 2 weeks back to back on embellishments, intro to embellishments. And so we're going to talk about chirps, cuts, taps, rolls, grace notes, how to handle these things. And I'm doing them 2 sessions because there's a lot to talk about with them. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and sign up for that at any time, and I hope I'll see you there. And if you find you have questions later tonight or tomorrow, whenever, please shoot me an email. All right, we'll have a great evening, and thank you very much.